In a small, dusty town in the heart of the American West, a young woman named Emily boarded a rickety stagecoach that would take her away from everything she knew. Her heart pounded with dread as she sat silently, clutching a faded letter in her hand. It was a letter that promised a new life, a fresh start. The words on the page seemed like a beacon of hope. "I will take care of you. Come, and I will show you the life you deserve." But Emily's journey wasn't one of hope, it was one of escape. She had been living in a nightmare, one filled with cruelty and pain. Her life had been a series of broken promises and empty words. The man she had married, a cruel and bitter soul, had treated her as nothing more than an object, a commodity to be controlled. After years of abuse, she had fled the only life she knew, hoping the promise of a new future would give her solace. But the journey wasn't easy. Emily was no longer the bright girl who had dreamt of love. The scars of her past were etched deep within her, and the idea of trusting another man seemed impossible. The stagecoach rattled on, heading to a ranch on the edge of town where her new husband, a stranger, awaited her arrival. As the coach neared its destination, Emily's hands trembled. She had heard stories about mail-order brides and the kind of men they were matched with. Some were kind, loving, and patient, but others were just as cruel as the one she had escaped. What if her new husband was like him? What if she had jumped from one nightmare into another? The fear gnawed at her, but there was nothing left to do but face what was ahead. The ranch came into view, and Emily's stomach twisted with anxiety. The man standing on the porch of the farmhouse looked nothing like she had imagined. He was tall, rugged, with calloused hands and eyes that, though hard from years of ranch life, seemed kind. His name was Jack, and he was a man of few words, but the weight of his gaze spoke volumes. Jack had heard the rumors about the women who came through the mail-order bride system. Some were looking for a way out, others for love, but most were broken in one way or another. When Emily stepped off the stagecoach, her eyes downcast and her shoulders hunched, he could see the weight she carried. He could see the shadows in her eyes, shadows that no one should have to bear. "Welcome to the ranch," Jack said softly, his voice warm but steady. "I know it's a lot to take in, but you're safe here. You can stay as long as you need." Emily didn't trust him, not yet. But for the first time in what felt like forever, she allowed herself to hope, even just a little. The first few days were awkward. Emily stayed in the small guest cabin, keeping to herself, afraid to interact with Jack or the other ranch hands. Her past had made her wary of men, and the thought of being vulnerable again terrified her. Jack respected her space, but made sure she knew he was there if she needed anything. As the days passed, Emily began to notice things that made her question the harsh judgments she had placed on Jack. He didn't push her to talk or smile, and he never asked about her past. Instead, he allowed her to move at her own pace. Slowly, she began to feel a sense of safety she hadn't experienced in years. Yet, something held her back from truly believing in the life she could build here. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Emily sat on the porch, watching the horizon. Jack approached her quietly, his footsteps light against the wooden floor. He didn't say anything at first, just sat beside her, and together they watched the colors in the sky change. "You don't have to tell me anything you're not ready to," Jack said, after a long silence. "But you're not alone anymore. And if you ever want to talk or just be around someone who won't judge you, I'm here." Emily looked at him, surprised by the gentleness in his voice. He had no idea what she had been through, but he wasn't pushing her to open up. For the first time in ages, she felt a flicker of something warm and comforting. "I don't know if I can believe that," she whispered, barely loud enough for him to hear. "I've been hurt too many times." Jack nodded slowly, his expression unreadable. "I understand, but trust is built over time, and you've got time here. No rush." That night, Emily lay in bed, staring up at the ceiling, her mind racing. Could she ever truly feel safe again? Could she ever smile again, without the weight of fear holding her back? She didn't know, but she had to admit that for the first time in a long time, the idea of a life without constant pain seemed possible. Weeks turned into months, and the ranch became a place of healing for Emily. She spent her days working with the animals, learning the ropes of ranch life under Jack's careful guidance. At first, it was just a distraction, a way to keep her mind occupied. But over time, the routine became a source of peace. She found herself smiling at the horses as she fed them, laughing at the antics of the dogs as they chased each other around. It was small, simple moments, but they meant the world to her. And then, one afternoon, as she was walking to the barn, she saw something that stopped her in her tracks. Jack was in the middle of a heated argument with one of the ranch hands, a man named Sam, who had been with Jack for years. The anger in Jack's voice was something Emily had never heard before. It wasn't the quiet, steady voice she had come to know. It was fierce and full of rage. "You can't just take what isn't yours, Sam," Jack shouted, his face red with fury. "I told you this land isn't for sale, and neither are the cattle. You think I've worked all these years just to give it all away?" Sam, clearly not afraid of Jack, sneered. "You think you're the only one who's struggled. This ranch is falling apart, Jack. You can't do it alone." Emily felt a surge of fear, wondering what kind of man Jack was behind the calm exterior. Was he just as capable of anger and violence as her previous husband? Her heart pounded in her chest as she watched the argument unfold, unsure of what to do. Should she intervene? Should she walk away and pretend she hadn't heard anything? Before she could make up her mind, Jack turned and saw her, standing there, frozen. His face softened instantly, and he quickly dismissed Sam with a few curt words before walking toward Emily. "I'm sorry you had to see that," he said, his voice quieter now. "Sam has a lot of his own demons to fight. I shouldn't have raised my voice." Emily felt conflicted, unsure of what to say. But she could see the truth in his eyes. Jack wasn't perfect, none of us were. But he had never shown her anything but kindness, and that was enough for her to know that this moment didn't define him. "It's all right," Emily said softly, trying to make sense of the swirling emotions inside her. I don't know if I can trust anyone again. I don't know if I can ever let go of the past." Jack placed a hand on her shoulder, his touch warm and reassuring. "You don't have to let go of everything all at once. Healing is a slow process, but you're not alone, and I'm not going anywhere." Over the next few weeks, Jack and Emily's bond deepened. Jack's steady presence in her life allowed her to begin to heal, not just physically, but emotionally. For the first time, Emily began to believe in the possibility of love again. She started to smile, genuinely, as the weight of her past slowly lifted. But just when she thought she had finally found peace, life threw one last test her way. A letter arrived, one that would change everything. It was from her past, from the man she had escaped, and it carried with it a threat that would force Emily to make a choice between the life she had started to build with Jack and the shadows that would never let her go. Would Emily find the strength to fight for her happiness? Or would the ghosts of her past tear her apart once again?